In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to crochet the royal ridge stitch. As you can see here, you have these little ridges, and it's all to do with where you're placing your stitches. Lovely nice fabric. I can see it being used around cuffs. Could be quite nice for making a cowl, or you could use it around the hem of a garment. So really lovely textured stitch there. So for this tutorial I am going to be using an Aran weight yarn. I'm using a 5mm crochet hook. You could easily use a DK and a 4mm crochet hook. Whatever yarn you want to use, just use the corresponding hook. I have scissors to cut off my end and a needle to sew in my ends. So for the royal ridge stitch, we don't need to have any particular number of multiples in our foundation chain. So you can make it as wide as you like, not worrying about counting the multiples, and you need to add an extra one on the end to give us the height. So make a slip knot in whichever way you prefer. And then we're going to make our foundation chain. So we yarn over, pull through the loop on the hook. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to go up to 15, so I will see you in a moment. Pause the video now whilst you make your foundation chain. So I have my foundation chain of 15 stitches, and I'm going to do one more for my height for my turning. So the first row is a very simple row. We're going to be doing a double crochet in the second chain from the hook. We don't count the one on the hook, so there's 1 and 2, so we're going to be working into that second chain there with a double crochet. That's UK terms. In US terms that would be a single crochet. So we insert, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through both the loops. Insert into the next stitch, yarn over, pull back through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're going to work a double crochet into every stitch all the way back down to the end of the chains. So pause the video now and I will meet you at the end of the row. So I'm just working the last double crochet of the row, and there we have row 1 complete. For row 2 we're going to chain 1. Now our chain 1 doesn't count, which means we're going to be working into that very first stitch there, so right at the bottom of the chain 1, and in there we're going to work a half treble. That's UK terms. In US terms that would be a half double crochet. So we're going to yarn over, insert into that first stitch, yarn over, pull through. You've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and that's your first half treble. Into the next stitch, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3 stitches, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. And again we're going to be working all the way down our double crochet stitches and working into those double crochets with half trebles. So work your way down to the end of row 2 and I will meet you at the end. So for row 3 we chain 1 and we turn our work. That chain 1 doesn't count, so we're going to be working into that first stitch here. Now this is where the slight difference comes into ordinary just half trebles back and forth. We're going to be working into the 3rd loop. So if we just twist our crochet around slightly, you'll see that we have our front and our back loops here. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So front loops, back loops. We're all used to working into either both of them, or back loops only, or front loops only, depending on what the pattern calls for. This one's going into the 3rd loop. So if you see, we've got loop 1, loop 2, our loop 3 is just in front of that stitch there. So you've got loop 1, loop 2, and then loop 3 is here. So it's a little trickier at first, but once you get the hang of it and you get more into making this pattern, you'll find that you'll pick it up really easily. So we've chained 1 and we've turned, and we're working into that front loop with a half treble. So yarn over into that front loop, yarn over, pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Yarn over into the next 3rd loop of the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. And we're just going to work into that 3rd loop, and you'll notice now, you've probably never noticed it before, but you will notice that 3rd loop now the more you work into it. So yarn over, insert into the 3rd loop, yarn over, pull back through, yarn over into the 3rd loop, yarn over, pull back through. So we're going to work our way all the way down this row 3, working a half treble into each of the 3rd loop of each stitch. So pause the video now whilst you work down the row, and I will see you at the end. So what you will notice now, if you twist back over, is that you have this ridge along the front, and that's your front and back loops being pushed forward whilst you work into that 3rd loop. So when you come to your last stitch, it looks like you've got a front and a back loop there, and you've got to come in here. But if you actually twist it round to where the other front and back loops are, you'll see that those are the front and back loops there, and we're working into this loop here. Let me just get my needle again to show you. So our front and back loops have been pushed forward here, therefore those are the front and back loops. Oops, there. So we're working into this one here, but if you're not careful, it looks like that's your 3rd loop, and you end up going into this part of the stitch here. So just be very careful, make sure you are going through the 3rd loop. Let's just go into my last one there. So going in there with the half treble, and that is row 3 done. Now row 3 is the repeated row, so we chain 1 doesn't count, working into each of the stitches, again working into the 3rd loop. And I don't know why it just sort of appears that it's more prominent now. I don't know if it's just you get used to it or the stitches are being pulled, but you can see the 3rd loop more clearly. So into that 3rd loop with the half treble, and again we're just working all the way down that row. So you end up with another ridge here, so you have one on this side and one on this side. So I'm going to work up a few more rows now for you to see what it looks like, and I shall see you in a moment. So I've just worked up a few more rows here for you to see how it looks, and you can see those ridges when I twist it slightly, and there's ridges on the back as well. Obviously this is a 1 row repeat after row 3, so you will get the same on the front as the back. I can see this being really nice for hems or for cuffs. I can see a nice sort of cowl with this sort of stretchier fabric. There's a really lovely texture to it. It just feels nice in the hands, so definitely one for you to try. So that's how to do the Royal Ridges stitch. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps us to be found in the algorithm by other crocheters. I shall pop 2 more videos on the side here to help you on your crochet journey, and I will see you over there. Thank you so much for joining me on this one, and happy hooking!